Hello out there, and today we're going to be taking a look at another new for 2020 CRKT, and this is the M40-03, a Kit Carson design that is updated and upgraded for 2020 with the deadbolt locking mechanism. And this one is a pretty sweet incarnation of a model that is pretty much a classic in CRKT's catalog. You know, all of those Kit Carson designs that sort of had that tactical kind of feel to them. I had a couple of them back in the day when I was new to CRKT. They all have good applications as far as heavy use, but this one is just a very, very pretty knife. Almost looks like a dress knife, and it still is going to be a super durable knife if you do have to apply it to using it vigorously. That's for sure. That said, it does have a lot of really cool qualities. I want to get into it, definitely talk about the deadbolt mechanism, and go through some of the things that you need to know. So let's get started with some size comparisons. This is a pretty large knife when it comes to the overall length. So, you know, 3.5 inches almost of cutting edge. So the cutting edge is actually going to be a little bit longer than the Paramilitary 2. So there's that. What else do we have on the table here? Let's bring out we'll bring out the 943. Good size comparison there. Overall length is pretty much the same there. Do a little bit of a teaser here because I've got this ProTech Malibu, and actually, I don't know, maybe I'll film the review and post that before this one comes out. So, but I'll put the Malibu on camera while I have it, that's for sure. And what's one more good size one? All right, yeah. Here is the Hogue Deca. A little bit dirty. Looks like a booger. But here's the Hogue Deca. So lining up the blades, you can see the M40-03 is a little bit longer than most of the EDC blades that I would choose to carry. It does come with a little bit more heft as well. We do have a stainless steel set of liners here, but we have an aluminum bolster to cut some weight. And then the scales, this scale right here is like a plastic, sort of a nicer kind of plastic though, 4.18 ounces, which honestly guys really isn't that bad. 4.18 ounces. And I think about some of the other CRKTs that implemented a similar kind of scale. So here's the Hootenanny from a few years ago. It has that like nicer kind of, call it a designer plastic. And the Fulcrum 2. So, but the M40-03 is different even from those. So I think it's a little bit of a step up. It feels really good. And if you're a fan of this model and this platform, then you're probably going to really like this knife. It does have, again, that dressy aspect, but it still feels like all of its predecessors. And the blade is a pretty darn good blade shape. Almost a spear point with the way that the flat is, and you take a look at it from above. It does definitely have an aggressive kind of look, so it would be good for piercing cuts. The blade steel here is 1.4114. I think I got that right. It's a steel that is just another budget steel. I think people who really just don't like 8CR might see some measure of appeal to it, but in all of the use that I've had with this steel, it really doesn't outperform 8CR all that much. What I will say is a budget knife that I had this steel on, the Cold Steel Pro Light, was excellent and was a great performer. But again, geometry, heat treat, a lot of other things go into it than just the steel. So, you know, you can't really just say that, oh, it's a great steel or it's not. All right. As we continue to move on back, you can see we have a little bit of jimping here. The jimping is actually pretty decent as far as traction. It's comfortable. The knife really locks into the hand because of how big the flipper is here. So you do get, you know, a good kind of purchase right here. So that is definitely good. You'll see that the liners extend past the scales. That's just one of the design features, and the finishing on them is good to the point where it's not sharp. It's not an issue whatsoever. So yeah, it just adds, I think, to the visual appeal, and it's one of those things that yeah, I just like. Sometimes on knives I don't like that aspect when they do that. On this one it seems to work pretty darn well. And then as we go all the way to the back, well, flip side, take a look. You can see here's that deadbolt mechanism poking through the other side. As we go all the way to the back, we have a reversible clip. It is deep carry, and they made a compromise here, and it's interesting because, you know, a lot of people are really big fans of the lines of the knife and symmetry and things just sort of like looking a certain way. And as you can see, it's just not a straight cutout here for the clip, because CRKT chose to place the clip in a way that would angle it down, you know, at an angle and make it a little bit more pocket friendly, and I think a little bit deeper, as opposed to making it straight up and down. So I mean, I think they prioritize function over form here, which is an interesting call. And yeah, I mean, I don't think it would make that huge of a deal to me either way, but it works. All right, the main talking points though, as far as the actual structure of the knife, is definitely the locking mechanism and the action. We'll start with the mechanism. The deadbolt mechanism, which is one, when it first came out, I was really high on it and excited about it. It seemed to be something that CRKT was 100% behind as far as getting this locking mechanism onto a lot of models. And the first few models that we saw it on were very large. You know, I can't remember the name of the first one that I got. That I did a disassembly video. I took a look at the mechanism from the inside. It was pretty cool, just in that there were so many safeties built in that it didn't seem like the lock could really fail. And even if the two deadbolt like rods broke off somehow, they'd still be stuck inside the knife, so the knife wouldn't be able to close on you. And that is a pretty neat thing. So as far as security goes, I'm not going to say, oh, this is the best, you know, versus the axis lock or compression lock or triad. No, I don't care. It's going to be good for you. You know what I mean? It's going to be secure for you. And what I liked that they were able to do was shrink down the size of the mechanism, shrink down the size of the knife, and get it into a knife that isn't a huge like 4-inch blade and just a bulky 8-ounce thing, or whatever those other ones were, if you remember. You know, I don't think that this piece here is too, as far as like aesthetics go, is too distracting. You know, it doesn't really bother me, because I know the function outweighs any kind of, you know, hiccup in the lines of the knife, and that's not a huge deal. They did a really nice job dressing it up on this side here, and, you know, matching it to the thumb stud. You know, the texturing here is really nice, and the pivot collar is nice. I mean, it's classy. It looks good. And as far as looks go overall, I mean, I think it's a prettier knife than the paramilitary 2. Let's be real. So, you know, if you asked a bunch of people who weren't knife people which one of these two knives is prettier, you're probably going to go with the CRKT without really knowing all the details. So, I mean, they did accomplish something really nice here with that and the look, and getting all of the functional aspects into the knife and still making it a very attractive piece. So kudos to them for that. As far as the action goes, it is on IKBS. I did lubricate this a little bit just to see if it would get like even smoother than it was, and I mean, the action is good, but it's not super drop shutty, and the D10 isn't like super snappy where once you flick it, it takes over. But just because of the bearings, it's a, you know, there, you can do that, see, really easily. Because of the bearings though, it's smooth enough that if you do it with any kind of force, it's going to open all the way. The other thing I like about it is that the thumb stud, which also sort of acts as like a stop pin, is fully functional for opening, and it really retains like the character of the previous Carson design. So that is a pretty good thing as well.
And now for 30 seconds of uninterrupted, unadulterated deadbolt locking mechanism action. All right.
Overall, I like the knife. I like it a lot. It's one that after unboxing it for the first few minutes, I was like, man, I might need to try to get one of these for myself and hold on to it. Because again, it just has that second level kind of appeal where, yeah, if you're just a person who's carrying a knife, like you might think that that's a better knife just by chance than this. And I'm not going to debate whether it is or not, but I know a lot of people are going to say they'll take the Paramilitary 2 over the CRKT in a heartbeat, and it's just a matter of, some kind of like flashes and added details to the aesthetic look that does add value. Now, the question is, does it add value to the point of you paying $110 for this knife? Because that's where it is. And a lot of the people who are steel people are going to say absolutely not. So a lot of the people who are just based on looks might see that. And if you paid $40 or $45, maybe $50 for one of the previous versions of this, you might see that, hey, this is the like ultimate example of that design. And yeah, maybe it might be worth that to you. What I think you're paying for regardless is the locking mechanism. I mean that's what the big selling point is on this model, is the fact that they got the locking mechanism into a smaller design and it's that secure. And I think that's where like the R&D was that caused the knife to be so expensive. And I think that they did a pretty good job of filling in the rest of the pieces in order to try to provide as much value as they could to make that purchase worth it. For me, it's tough though. It's tough at $110, that's for sure. I mean, there are a lot of really great $100 knives plus that you're going to be able to get, instead of this. And again, if you're a steel guy, you probably aren't even watching at this point anymore. And unless you really have a big draw to this locking mechanism or to the design, this really might not be the one for you competitively versus other things. But it is a great job by CRKT of implementing these things and in updating and upgrading a design that has been a classic for them, especially since Kit Carson is past and no longer designing, just keeping these designs alive. I certainly have an appreciation for that and for the quality at which they did it. So there definitely is that to say about it. All right, guys, any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you very much again to CRKT for sending this out to the pass around group. I appreciate getting the opportunity to handle this one. Take care and have a good one.